There are some stories that just seem too good to be true. Sometimes we may encounter a horrific incident that makes us shiver, or even a little paranoid. Some people can even narrate a story of what happened to them, and you might just think that they are making it up. However, these things happen out there. Today, I will tell you some true horror stories that are guaranteed to keep you up at night. You can turn off the lights for the best experience, but be warned, you might not sleep at night if you do that. Writing in the mirror. I moved into this house 5 months ago and had already gotten used to it. It was a very regular day for me, so I took a shower. One of my friends had come to sleep over, so I was not alone. I had taken tons of showers here, so nothing was new. So I take my shower, and once I'm done as usual, I take my towel to dry off. However, it was not until I looked at the steaming mirror that I saw it. On the mirror, there were words that read along the lines of, "Dear Father, please forgive me." What freaked me out was that the fact that the writing was too perfect to have written by a human with the finger. There were other words after that, but I don't remember them because I was too freaked out. It was really terrifying. My friend couldn't have done this because the door was locked the entire time. Even worse, this was the first time that it happened. Who or what could have written that? Weird mailman. I was around 10 or 11 years old, and I was homesick from school on this particular day. I was just sitting on the couch watching TV when I heard the doorbell ring. When I looked outside, I noticed it was the mailman. He told me we had gotten a package, but it was a bit bulky, and he needed some help carrying it. Even though I was very young, I immediately knew something was wrong. I scanned for his truck, but it was not parked out front. When I asked him about it, he kept telling me it was around the corner. Out of curiosity, I asked him why the regular mailman, who was very hard to forget because he always brought lollipops, was not there. This mailman told me that he was visiting his family. He kept asking me to open the front door, but I politely told him that I was not feeling well and was not allowed to leave the house. I then told him we would pick it up from the post office, and at this point he started explaining what a hassle it would be. He even started telling me how much my mom would appreciate it if I did her this favor. I hatched up a quick plan and told him I would come outside. However, I told him I had to get my shoes from upstairs first. I immediately closed the front door and locked it, then dashed to the back door and locked it as well. I then called my neighbor who worked from home. She was a close family friend and I immediately called her up, screaming on the phone that she had to come over right now. I then stood at the locked front door and just stared at the man through the window in the door. When he saw me staring, he started yelling through the door, asking if I had found my shoes. I yelled back and told him that I had called my neighbor to help carry it because she was older and stronger. The moment I said this, he just turned around and ran. He was never caught. I was left wondering whether he had managed to trick some other kids somewhere else. Stay in the car. I was driving to Albuquerque, New Mexico, all the way from 29 Palms, California. However, on this day, I decided to take the shortcut. 29 Palms is found in the desolate high desert east of LA. The shortcut I had taken was all-two-lane road through nothingness. The only other town I passed through was Amboy, California. Amboy is a nearly abandoned town, nearly as far below sea level as Death Valley. There is a dormant volcano and lava field on one side and a salt flat on the other. This was also a hotspot for Satan activity around this time. I was driving by myself this afternoon, and when I stopped at Amboy, I took a photo of the city sign. This was to prove to my friends that I was there. They had dared me to take that route to I-40. I immediately got back into my car and drove up into the mountain range between Amboy and I-40. By the time I got to the top, I was driving north, through a canyon with high grass on both sides of the road. And as I'm driving, I noticed that there is something in the middle of the road up ahead. As I drove closer to the scene, I saw a red Pontiac Fiero that had been stopped sideways across both lanes, a suitcase open with clothes scattered everywhere, and two bodies lying face down on the road. One was a man and the other was a woman. I stopped about 100 or so feet away, and the hair on the back of my neck was already standing at this point. Given that I was a Marine, I reached under the seat, pulled out a 9mm pistol, and fed a round into the chamber. Something felt completely off about the setup. It looked too perfect, as if it were staged. Could it be an ambush? Was I just being paranoid? These are the questions I started asking myself. However, one thing was for sure, something was definitely not right. The thought of getting out of the car was nowhere close to my mind. After all, that's the #1 mistake horror movies make. I scanned the road and eventually saw a line I could drive on. All I had to do was pass the guy on the road on his left, swerve to the right side of the woman, behind the Fiero, and I'd be on the other side. So without wasting any more time, I put the car in first gear, punched it, and drove the line as I had planned. I managed to pass the back of the Fiero without hitting it or either of the bodies on the road. I drove on for a couple hundred feet and slowed down to catch my breath. However, when I looked into the rearview mirror, I saw that the 2 bodies had gotten up to their knees, and about 20 people had emerged from the tall grass on either side of the road by the car and the bodies. On seeing this, I did not hesitate to floor the gas pedal, and the only time I let it go was when I had to slow down for the I-40 East on-ramp. To this day, I will never really know what would have happened to me had I gotten out of the car to check on the bodies, or even if I had stopped my car closer to them, but I don't think it would have been something good. A little music. I was living with my sister and she had gone on holiday for a week and left me alone in the house. So when it was finally my bedtime, I turned off all the lights and headed to bed. As I lay in bed, however, I heard what sounded like a guitar being played. I was curious to find out what that was, so I headed downstairs to investigate. When I got to where my guitar was, I found it lying on the ground. I never really thought much about it, so I picked it up and placed it back on the stand. I then went back to bed, and shortly after, as I was lying in bed once more, I heard the guitar being played. I then get up and head downstairs again, only to find my guitar once more on the ground. At this point, I was already spooked out. It was the 11th anniversary of my dad's passing, and he really loved to play the acoustic as much as I do. Could it be him trying to pass a message? I don't know. All I know is that I could not sleep after that. Thanks for watching. If you are still here, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more spooky stories. I'll see you in the next one.